Arrest of the man who helped launch Abercrombie and Fitch to must-wear brand status. The accusers numbering more than a dozen. Their allegations horrifying. Here's ABC's senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky.
We're here today to announce the arrest and charging of 3 defendants.
It was a stunning announcement.
Former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith, and James Jacobson.
The former CEO of one of America's most celebrated brands, Abercrombie and Fitch, arrested along with his romantic partner and a business associate.
Their sex trafficking and prostitution enterprise lasted at least from the end of 2008 until early 2015. They spent millions of dollars on a massive infrastructure to support this operation and maintain its secrecy.
Jeffries, who stepped down from Abercrombie in 2014, is accused by law enforcement of using his power and wealth to traffic and sexually exploit more than a dozen young men around the world, many of them aspiring models. The 16-count indictment includes charges of sex trafficking and prostitution. At the heart of the case, the allegations of 15 John Does.
So it's jaw-dropping and shocking in every twist and turn of this case. We've seen R. Kelly go down on similar charges, and in the Southern District of New York, Sean Combs is facing the exact same charges.
Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. Y'all heard it.
Welcome to Male Reality Lessons, where topics are reviewed and discussed as iron sharpens iron. On Male Reality Lessons today, while the Diddy case is coming to a close, we're going to talk about a much more egregious case that happened around the same time but has not gotten as much publicity as what has transpired in the Diddy case. And perhaps it's more about gender bias than anything, because it has to do with men being abused. And the case in question is the Abercrombie and Fitch casting couch scandal. But you don't have to believe me. Let's take a look at what has happened thus far.
Arrest of the man who helped launch Abercrombie and Fitch to must-wear brand status. The accusers numbering more than a dozen. Their allegations horrifying. Here's ABC's senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky.
We're here today to announce the arrest and charging of 3 defendants.
It was a stunning announcement.
Former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith, and James Jacobson.
The former CEO of one of America's most celebrated brands, Abercrombie and Fitch, arrested along with his romantic partner and a business associate.
Their sex trafficking and prostitution enterprise lasted at least from the end of 2008 until early 2015. They spent millions of dollars on a massive infrastructure to support this operation and maintain its secrecy.
Jeffries, who stepped down from Abercrombie in 2014, is accused by law enforcement of using his power and wealth to traffic and sexually exploit more than a dozen young men around the world, many of them aspiring models. The 16-count indictment includes charges of sex trafficking and prostitution. At the heart of the case, the allegations of 15 John Does.
So it's jaw-dropping and shocking in every twist and turn of this case. We've seen R. Kelly go down on similar charges, and in the Southern District of New York, Sean Combs is facing the exact same charges.
When I saw the charges come down, I said perhaps this is a continuation of the reckoning that I think we are starting to see in this world of arts and entertainment moving forward.
The arrests are relief to those who have alleged in civil lawsuits they were victimized.
What feels like an evil villain continued to use his power to harm a lot of people. And I don't think he feels bad about it.
To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system. This case should serve as a warning.
Jeffries and his romantic partner Matthew Smith were arrested in Palm Beach, Florida. Jeffries is now released on a $10 million bond while Smith remains detained. Their attorneys issued identical statements saying we will respond in detail to the allegations after the indictment is unsealed and when appropriate, but plan to do so in the courthouse, not the media. Jacobson was arrested in Wisconsin. He appeared in a Minnesota courtroom and was released on bail. His attorneys declined to comment. Court documents allege the length Jeffries, his partner Smith, and their business associate Jacobson used to lure young men to sex events around the globe, from New York to Europe and Morocco.
This indictment is that these three men would use the allure of a modeling career or being associated with Abercrombie and Fitch to seduce and also allegedly rape many of these men.
That's a damn shame.
Prosecutors said the itineraries for some of the events made no mention of sex and instead resembled those often sent to models for photo shoots. Jacobson allegedly acted as a recruiter for Jeffries and Smith.
Jacobson engaged in, quote, tryouts with men across the world where he would typically pay them to engage in sex acts with him.
The federal indictment alleges that prior to sex events, the John Does were physically groomed, including at times shaving men's genitals without advance notice.
There were two things that stood out to me to the indictment. One, the network that was made and used to facilitate the sex trafficking, but also the use of drugs to induce erections so that people who could not or would not participate in sexual acts were forced to do so.
The defendants pressured the men to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxants known as poppers during the sex events.
At the sex events, the indictment alleges staff controlled the entry and exit and directed men to wear costumes and use sex toys. Prosecutors claim the victims were sometimes paid for attending the events and forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. It's a staggering fall for the once highly successful CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Mike Jeffries expanded Abercrombie and Fitch from a small apparel store in the United States to a massive enterprise throughout the world.
Jeffries helped turn the brand into a cultural phenomenon.
In the mid to late 90s specifically, Abercrombie and Fitch was everywhere. It was very much giving coastal prep boy energy, very preppy, very country clubby, very much the moment.
Popular among teens, Abercrombie's marketing campaigns in commercials like these, selling sexy images of shirtless men and barely dressed women. Going viral before the word viral was part of the lexicon, and sparking controversy too.
The boundaries were absolutely pushed about what was socially acceptable at that time to get this attention. So what you saw in these advertisements a lot of times were a lack of clothing. It's a clothing brand, but you didn't see a lot of clothing.
You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious.
If you're enjoying the video, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Male Reality Lessons.
Thousands of dollars of cash for commercial sex. Prolific amounts of money for staff to run the sex events. Money for domestic travel, international travel, hotel rooms, services from a security company, and Jacobson's salary, among other things. Now, this investigation remains ongoing. Although there are 15 John Does identified as victims in this indictment, this interstate prostitution venture encompassed dozens and dozens of men. And I encourage anyone with information about this case, including anyone who was a victim of the defendant's alleged crimes, to contact the FBI.
My gosh, Nima, those are incredibly disturbing allegations. And for me, what stands out is this level of organization of this. If you take these allegations as true, this was a systematic, well-organized scheme to do this. But what stands out to you as you heard, again, kind of unthinkable allegations from the prosecutor?
That's why I started talking about the dates, because it seems like the type of case that would normally be charged as a RICO, either substantive or RICO conspiracy charge. Obviously, that can bring in a lot of individuals. It can bring in a lot of crimes. They didn't charge that in this case.
You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious.
Well, clearly, you have a criminal enterprise here, and obviously, that there are many individuals whose purpose was to recruit, groom these men, and engage in prostitution. And I think one of the big takeaways is what the U.S. attorney said, and that's that force, fraud, or coercion, because there's really three possibilities here. Obviously, having consensual sex with your boss to get ahead, it's not criminally unlawful. It may violate civil sexual harassment laws, but this has moved well past consensual sex into prostitution, right? Prostitution obviously is that commercial element, that payment. And what makes something sex trafficking is the force, fraud, or coercion. That's why during the press conference, there was the focus on that, because that takes away the consent entirely. And once you prove that, you start talking about potential mandatory minimum sentences in federal prison.
And there you have it. Whether you choose to believe that this was just merely a Diddy wake-up call, or there is true media bias when it comes down to men being the victim, or a mere distraction, I'll leave it up to you. As it stands, the Abercrombie and Fitch case still remains open, and there has been little to no coverage concerning it. I did run across one item mentioning the primary conspirator having some mental disabilities and may not stand trial, but the case remains open. Yet, I want to hear from you in the comments section. Give me your thoughts and opinions on this topic, as well as any other topic here on Male Reality Lessons. As always, I want to thank you for watching. Smash that like button and have a good day.
Yeah.